Alex, welcome.
Hi, Tom. I was just a bit curious when you were speaking earlier, you mentioned the word God, and then which I don't hear you mention that often. And then you mentioned that God was actually a part of Maya, and that sort of my ears kind of pricked up a bit at this because probably wasn't um well, didn't line up with my ideas, I suppose, about these things. So would you maybe be able to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Alex. So, it first of all, apologies because basically I was using the word God in two different ways without probably being very clear about it. And I often do this. Often, if I use the word God or Bhagawan, you may notice if you listen carefully, there are two different ways that I'm using the word God or Bhagawan, which mean the same thing. So, God can mean the self, yeah, which is the way I was using it most of the time. You are God. If I say you are God, then I'm saying God is the self. You are the self. You are the Almighty, the all-powerful. Later on, if I say surrender to God, let God take care of everything, right? Meaning let God take care of Maya. Let God take care of the body, mind, and world. Then I'm using the word God in actually a different way, which is God as the ruler or the that entity, that power which takes care of Maya. And I use the word loosely. I don't care to define it, but this is actually the two different ways I'm using the word. This isn't that important, but it can be useful to know for some. Why? Because the self doesn't know Maya. It never sees Maya, right? So if God is the self, then how can God also take care of Maya? If I do the same with Bhagavan Ramana, I say you are Ramana on one hand, which means Ramana is the self, and the self never sees Maya. And then other times I say, give it all to Bhagavan. Yeah, he'll take care of everything. Surrender to Bhagavan. Yeah, let Bhagavan take care of the body, mind, world. But this is talking about Bhagavan as the power that takes care of body, mind, world. Now, in the path of knowledge, in the Sanskrit language, they use a specific word for God that means that which takes care of the body, mind, world. And they use a different word for God when it's talking about the self. But they don't always do that, but typically. And the word for God that means that which takes care of the body, mind, world is Ishvara. Ishvara translated means God. But as I said, the literal translation of the word Ishvara is he who rules, or that which rules, the ruler. A more sort of typical translation you could say is the Lord. The Lord. Lord means, what does Lord literally means? It means a wealthy landowner who rules over some territory. That's what Lord actually means, right? Ruler, controller, it implies dominion, master, right? So in the Bible, we see this word used, don't we? We see Lord. God is my Lord, my ruler. God owns me. And if you have a lord, that means you're like the servant or the slave. So on the body-mind level, the God that rules Maya is conceptually called Ishvara. But Ishvara is ultimately an illusion because that which controls Maya is a part of Maya or reigns over Maya. Ishvara is actually a different name for Maya. We could say Maya is Ishvara is often thought of in the masculine, and Maya is often thought of in the feminine. It is ultimately sexist, but this is the sort of way the language has evolved. But you can think of Maya as the goddess that has that rules over Maya. And in that sense, the Maya as the power that rules over Maya is Ishvara, or Ishvara is the power that rules over the objects, the phenomena. See, the objects that appear in Maya are Maya, but Maya can also be conceived as the power which moves all of the objects. That's Ishvara or Maya. And then there's the other true God, what you actually are. That's the true self. And the word for that is Brahman. Brahman. Brahman, eh, both these words, Brahman and Ishvara, can be translated as God. But Brahman is the self, the truth, unchanging. And Ishvara is that which rules over or is Lord over the changing, Maya. So when we say let God take care of everything, we're actually talking to Ishvara to be
Yeah.
technical. And when we say I am God, we're talking about Brahman, self, truth. Does that clarify things, Alex?
Yes. No, that's great. So when people, so karma, for instance, that's part of Maya,
Correct.
and has that got to do with? So I'm not quite sure. Is it Ishvara? Is that how you say it?
Ishvara, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So Ishvara's in charge of karma.
that's it. So let's
Yeah.
say you're praying devoutly to God for like, I don't know, better exam results or to get through the next interview or for better health or for wealth, for fame, for fortune. Technically speaking, you'll be praying to Ishvara, God as Ishvara. Now, you don't have to know this distinction. This distinction is there conceptually for people who follow the path of knowledge to make sense of the teaching. Otherwise, the teaching doesn't conceptually make sense. If you're, if you on one hand say what you actually are is God, and God never sees the body mind world, which is an illusion, and on the other hand, you're praying to that God to help you in that illusion. It's like, well, hang on a sec, how can that hold? So in the path of knowledge, they've created these two concepts of God. In the path of love, you don't care about this stuff. You don't care for it all to make sense because you don't. It doesn't just doesn't. You don't need it to be logically coherent to feel love. And so in the path of love, we don't really have to distinguish between Ishvara and Brahman. We just say God or Shiva. But if the mind asks the question, you want that conceptual clarity, there it is. That's the conceptual clarity. We
Okay.
see the same thing in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna at times it refers to Ishvara and other times it refers to Brahman, the self. But when anything, Ishvara is the lord of karma, yeah, lord of the dominion of karma. And the self or Brahman is where there is no karma. These are conceptual distinctions for the ego mind to help them navigate the teachings. There's a video I've done, or someone's created on YouTube of one of my talks, and they asked the question, what is um, Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara? These three words. This is like three words that are often seen together in the scriptures. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. These three go together. Jiva means the individual person, the false identity as being a body mind, or the body mind entity, that is Jiva. Jagat means the world, and Ishvara is the power that operates these. So in the scriptures, it says, as soon as you think of yourself as an individual person, that means that's the Jiva. You've given birth to the Jiva. As soon as there's a Jiva, there's also a Jagat. As soon as there's an individual person, there's an environment in which that person finds himself in. That's called the world. And then there's some kind of power that mediates the two. Yeah. We can call it the forces of nature, the laws of physics. There's always a power. There has to be some kind of way of mediating the way that the human being or the jiva operates in the world. There's some sort of principle or force or power by which that occurs. That is Ishvara. If you're not religious, that would be the laws of physics or laws of nature. If you're religious, that is God. God is constantly giving you the results of your actions. Karma, phala, fruits of karma. So if you try really hard, then God might give you a good test result or help you pass your interview, you see. So God is dishing out the fruits of your actions, karma, phala. Or you could say the laws of nature, laws of physics, laws of science if you're not religious. This is Ishvara. There's always these three. And these three, Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, are Maya. They're illusion. They're illusory. They disappear in liberation. This is what the scriptures tell us as well. This is why in some translations of texts, it will say, what you truly are is higher than God. It's beyond God even, they'll say. You'll read this sometimes. What you are is higher than God. Even God is lower than you, which seems blasphemous and ridiculous to say, perhaps, to some people. But this is saying you are beyond God as Ishvara, not God as Brahman. You cannot be beyond Brahman, because that is that which you are, which you cannot go beyond by definition. That's a great question. Hopefully is that clarifying for you, my answer?
Yeah, thank you. Very, very well. Thank you.
Welcome. Lots of this stuff, a lot of what I explained is clearly explained in the Vedanta scriptures, but a lot of it is not clearly explained. So it's good if you ask me these questions, I can clarify. For example, the Jiva Jagat Ishvara, it's not always clarified why these three go together, for example. There is an underlying logic.